Are you looking for a really spooky, cozy, family friendly RPG to introduce to your table inspired by media like The Goonies and Hilda, where basically you are in a small town and you are working with cryptids to try and solve curses that keep showing up? Well, then the game that we are going to be talking about today, Cryptid Creeks, is exactly for you. This game is absolutely adorable and made by the amazing Hatchling Games, and I have brought on Rich, who is the creator of Cryptid Creeks, to come on and talk all about Cryptid Creeks with me. This is an absolutely adorable game. It is going to be their newest game that is coming to Kickstarter on September 5th, so if you're listening to this episode right when it comes out, that is only a few days away. So you have time to get this game for yourself, and even if you're listening to this afterwards, the Kickstarter is going to be up for a while, so make sure to check the link in the description of this episode to go to the Kickstarter, or you can go on Kickstarter and just search Cryptid Creeks and find it yourself and get the game because it's amazing and I really want to as well. So with that all said, I think it's time to get into it and hear all about this spoozy game, Cryptid Creeks. So let's get into it. Welcome everyone to the RPG Goblin. I am your host Willow, and I am the one who asks all of the questions and who are just really curious about all of the games. If you don't know, the RPG Goblin is a podcast that makes learning TTRPGs fun and easy. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about a new game that is coming to Kickstarter, which it might already be out by the time this episode releases, so you should be able to get it. But this is a game coming to Kickstarter called Cryptid Creeks, and I am so insanely excited to tell you all about it. Well, not tell you all about it, but talk to the creator actually, and for him to tell you all about it because it's an amazing game. And like I said, we have the creator here to talk about the game, Rich Oxenham. Rich, if you would like to introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do and where everyone can find you and when this Kickstarter is going to be out.
Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. My name's Rich. I'm the director of Hatchling Games. We make tabletop RPGs for all ages of player. We're kind of best known for Inspirals and Overisles, which are groundbreaking RPGs that teach sign language, both ESL and ASL, and soon other languages, because we signed with the licenses, so that's exciting.
Oh, that's very, very exciting.
So Cryptid Creeks is our next big launch, both through crowdfunding and as a core game, and it's a spooky adventure in the vein of inspired by Gravity Falls and things like Hilda and the Goonies, and it's coming to Kickstarter on September 5th.
September 5th. Perfect. Yeah, no, I am so very excited to hear about this game. Especially, I remember seeing it for the first time on Twitter, I think it was. I'm like, I know what game I'm getting.
Yeah, it seems to connect with people in a really weird way. I think part of that is because of its inspirations, but also partly because I think the sort of genre of game, which is like scouts and kind of like campfire tales and like like groups of children hasn't really exploded as I'd imagine it would do with role playing games. You've got kids on bikes and like the D&D Stranger Things set and a few other sort of like sporadic games, but it never really exploded like high fantasy did, or even science fiction.
Yeah, for sure. I would absolutely agree with that, and I can think of a few games even recently. Badge Quest is kind of along that line too, that I know is recently came out, and that seems to be quite a popular genre with people, which is really cool to see. Especially, I think a lot of people who grew up with these types of tropes and movies, that kids on bikes feel and stuff that.
Yeah.
Very popular with them.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes. I mean, I love 80s films. My favorite movie ever is Stand By Me. It was about a group of kids, obviously. Stephen King's short story. But I loved all those films, the Goonies, all those types of movies, and even the books I read are sort of coming of age sort of novels, and young adult sort of fiction. So that's kind of how it started in terms of fiction sort of world. But it's
Yeah, I
also like
love it.
it's deeply personal to me. So like I grew up in on a boatyard when I was younger.
Mhm.
I was a young teenager, and we were trying to renovate like a folk boat on this boatyard. So I used to sail in the river all the time, and like go fishing on the pontoons and things.
That's
So it's
amazing.
kind of
That's
from that as
so cool.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic to bring in that personal touch into your own games. I mean, like that's one of my favorite things of getting more into the indie games and games that are made by like small publishing teams as well, because they're usually so much more personal, and you can tell how much love and care is put into them too, and just the ideas are amazing.
Yeah, completely agree with that. They almost feel like little vignettes of a person's experiences,
Hmm.
and they're often very focused, right? So you get like a kind of specific theme or topic or kind of like exploration,
Hmm.
and they take it a long way and into a deep place, really, in some ways.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
like this recent movement of solar punk, kind of like
Yes.
optimistic, post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, no, I've actually seen a little bit of that too coming up, and that's been especially with everything going on in the world and stuff. Like it's nice to kind of see that kind of media pop up and be like, oh, there can be hope.
Yes, exactly. Well, this Cryptid Creeks is kind of ostensibly about nature kind of rising up against nature and community kind of rising up against
Mhm.
like a spreading darkness. So
I
you
like
can
that.
read into what you want with that, but it involves a lot of like ecology and environmentalism as well with it. We wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, I absolutely adore that. And actually, I think that's a good sort of segue to get into talking about Cryptid Creeks itself. And I think kind of the best starting question is, can you explain to everyone listening what Cryptid Creeks is and the idea behind it?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So Cryptid Creeks started off as a Powered by the Apocalypse game,
Mhm.
specifically. Powered by the Apocalypse is a popular system or platform to build RPGs upon. Um, but over time, I discovered other systems and system reference documents, and I came across Brindlewood Bay by Jason Cordova,
Oh
and
yeah.
it seemed to fit perfectly. I didn't realize initially that there was an open license for that system. So I
Mhm.
was delighted to discover that there's the carved from Brindlewood kind of movement, and a lot of games are stemming from that already. In fact, won a couple of Ennies last week. So
That's
I
amazing.
looked into that system, and it seemed to fit Cryptid Creeks perfectly in terms of like a mystery genre. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be murder mysteries. It doesn't have to be super dark, even though most of the games through that sort of movement are.
Mhm.
But I thought I'd create the first kind of young adult or child friendly all ages version.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so cool to take it through your own lens and through, make it your own.
Yeah. So the blurb is that Cryptic Creek is about a crew of river scouts attempting to lift the curse with the help of chaotic nature spirits. So the game focuses on supernatural adventures, and it's carved from Brindlewood, a term for content based on Jason Cordova's Brindlewood Bay. Inspired by Gravity Falls, Hilda, the Goonies, Lumberjanes, which is a graphic novel series, and Night in the Woods, which is a brilliant indie video game,
Mhm.
and the works of Studio Ghibli, which all our games seem to be slightly influenced by Studio Ghibli,
I mean,
because
Studio
I'm
Ghibli.
obsessed with those films.
I don't blame you. They're so good. They're
Yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah.
I love seeing that as, a piece of media that inspires games all the time. So seeing it with this is very, very exciting. As well as I love the fact that you're working with the cryptids.
Oh yeah, for sure. From the start, we wanted it to be kind of like slightly chaotic, benevolent kind of like
Mhm.
creatures, and you start the game by being introduced to it basically, which is a gigantic animal.
Mhm.
So like if you imagine like some of the creatures from Hilda, like the kind of like um yeah, some of those sort of like giant creatures that she meets,
Mhm.
or the kind of like the big wolves or like boars from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so, so cool. And also just nice to see a game that where it doesn't focus on, having to hunt down these cryptids or monsters and things like that. Because that happens. I mean, Monster of the Week is that way, and there's quite a few other
Yeah.
games that have that focus. So this again just feels more light and
Mhm.
friendly.
Yeah, it is. It's meant to be more quirky and more kind of like a different type of mystery,
Mhm.
you know. And it leans into. I mean, Monster. I love Monster of the Week. I mean, it's partly
Oh,
inspired
same.
by that as well.
It's one of
But
my favorites.
yeah, exactly. But it is. It can be very violent, and it can be very, very intent on kind of
Mhm.
bloodshed. But so this is very much not that. We try
Yeah,
to
I
keep all our
absolutely
games family friendly and kind of like leaning into different aspects. So
adore
we get our tension from something called the curse clock. So the curse clock is this kind of like mechanic at the heart of the game, and it has four phases.
it.
And the first phase, it starts with the curse, like the rumblings of the curse. Very like low key kind of like occurrences around the community and
Mhm.
the town. And as it goes through the four phases, it kind of escalates and kind of grows and evolves. And
Ooh.
each phase asks for a different kind of approach from the players,
Mhm.
and culminates in the kind of like grand finale where they've got to destroy the cursed item, which is spreading this curse.
That is so, so cool. So, like, what are you say like the first phases with the rumblings of things starting to pop up. What are the other phases?
So the second phase would be it's starting to actually become more prevalent within the community. So
Mhm.
our sample curse, for instance, is called the cold steel curse, and it's about essentially someone. So before I go into that, so the whole premise of the game is that there's a very enigmatic and mysterious character called the Peddler, which
Mhm.
is actually an old world demon, and it
Ooh.
kind of arrives in this town and it sells one of the locals, one of the townsfolk, a cursed item basically.
Okay, I see.
And the peddler is the antithesis to the watcher, which is one of our chief cryptids in the community, which has been like living in harmony with your town for like centuries.
Mhm.
So they're kind of like what's the word? Like they're kind of like rival
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
otherworldly beings, basically.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool.
So this peddler basically gives one of the townsfolk an item, and that item manifests their darkest kind of like imaginings.
Oh.
If you imagine like like Ghostbusters, like they try not to think of something, and then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man appears, right, and like
Yeah.
destroys the city. So it's a bit like that. It's a bit like you can't help but manifest these things.
Oh, yeah, I like that a lot, actually. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, so in the first phase of our sample curse, it's basically the cryptid, the water is a giant octopus that kind of like drapes
Ooh.
over the clubhouse, and then all the Eries are these little crabs, and
Oh.
basically you don't know the curse at the beginning, and in fact the navigator, which is the GM of the game, doesn't also doesn't know who the person who owns the item is and what the item is.
Mhm.
They just know a series of clues, and they know how the curse kind of manifests.
Ooh, actually, that's really cool. So you don't have the that's really interesting. So you don't have it
You
all
don't
set
have the
out.
answers. You
Yeah,
don't
you
have
don't
the
have it
answers.
all figured out at the beginning. So you're all figuring out together as a group through play.
Exactly. So the pl-
Love
so
that.
so so all depend on the player successfully rolling. So
Mhm.
in Brindlewood Bay, there isn't actually a set murderer.
Mhm.
So the players or the murder mavens, the group of old ladies that are kind of investigating the murder, they kind
I
of
love
they
it.
kind of solve it by passing tests basically. And then
That's
they
so
they, they
cool.
do a theorize at the end where they go, oh, we think this is the murderer. And then if they pass the test, then that is the murderer, essentially.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I,
it is because it's like real good agency for the players, right?
yeah. And like it actually makes it, especially because I feel like it's really hard to set up murder mysteries in a
Hmm.
TTRPG game and like make it work correctly. So giving
Yeah.
that agency and like leaving it up to whatever happens throughout the game is a really interesting take on it, and I think
Mm.
now I need to try that.
Yeah, when I discovered it and I read through it, I was thinking this is quite radical. And is it easy? Is it easy to set up? Is it easy to like keep control of the sessions?
Mhm.
And it is actually really simple. It's really intuitive and it works really well. It's about allowing the players to basically expand the fiction and the kind of mystery through their roles, basically, and through their interactions.
That's so cool. I absolutely adore that. That's amazing.
You have also have incredible things called paint the scene,
Mhm.
where you have, say you have a set location somewhere, say it's like a diner or
Mhm.
something. Then when the players go in there, you have a paint the scene questions. You say like, what's the special of the day, or who's making sort of like some sort of like ruckus in there.
Oh, that's so cool.
But basically the players are creating the world around them all the time.
Hmm. So this is a great game, especially if you have like active, proactive players that want to build the story with you. I
Yes,
love
exactly.
that.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So
Oh,
I didn't have any option but to follow this system because it was so appealing when I read through it. So it was like, yep, sold, sold. Powered by Apocalypse is great as well, but like this is just fits so well, basically.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, it's always great to find a system that help push the game in the direction that you want it to go. It's there's nothing bad with Powered by the Apocalypse if it doesn't work for that and something else does. It's just
Mm.
that's what was needed for this game.
Yeah.
Love it.
I
So
always
so
think though, I think it's hilarious. I think these system reference documents are absolutely hilarious because I think they were like a cheat sheet to creating games. Like we made Dragon Dowser based on the Carter system, which is a solo journaling system.
Mhm.
And honestly, now I can probably knock out about 5 a year just because I know it so well. And it's just like someone's already done all the play testing. So I'm like, oh, okay. That's the
That's actually
hardest bit
really
of
cool.
creation.
You don't have to create your own systems,
No,
which is,
no.
I mean, that's always tricky because you have to, work out the math and you have to play test it and
Yeah,
it's got to go just like
yeah.
so much work that has to go into it. So, like,
No,
props to
but
those
seriously,
amazing game
why would you
designers.
bother? Why would you bother? Let someone else do it.
So true. Man, I absolutely love that. And it's so cool that you were able to find this game and use it for Cryptid Creeks because it sounds perfect. And
Yeah,
so,
it fits it very well.
uh, and you were saying, so you were given the context of, you know, being the peddler coming in and selling off the item, and then the kind of the rivalry between the watcher and the peddler, and the mystery. So how does that connect to the countdown clock? So what? Because we were still going through the steps of the countdown.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So with the sample curse, say,
Hmm.
so the clues are quite hard to find at the beginning, yeah.
Hmm.
And they spend the first phase kind of doing research and investigating the beginnings or rumors circling around town.
Hmm.
And there's a palpable kind of unease amongst the community, and people's belongings are kind of I can't read this out, because people are going to want to play this. Basically, no, I can't read the sample one out, but
Yeah,
basically, look,
you can give with
I'll
the
give you a
yeah, just an
random
example.
example.
All good.
Yeah, all people know is an octopus. That's fine.
Mhm.
Um, so it's basically the four phases represent the growth of the curse, basically.
Mhm.
So the first phase is the items being used by someone, and it's kind of manifesting this dark kind of aura and curse.
Mhm.
And that can manifest any way you want. It could be like a zombie outbreak. It could be like pirates. It could be like
That's
some sort of like fog, anything
that's
like that.
I love it.
So the curse is up to you, but the item is also discovered by the players, like I said, through their roles.
Mhm.
And then the second phase, it gets more serious. So it's just like an escalation, basically. So
Mhm.
say it's like the zombies or werewolves, say. Then more would start popping up, and they'd form like a pack or something in the woods, and you'd hear like howling and things like this, and things would be damaged, and
Mhm.
someone might have been attacked or something. And in the third phase, it would be like they're sort of like assaulting the town, or there's kind of more of them being turned,
Mhm.
and like all sorts anything that would turn up clues basically to the
Yeah,
curse, and it would like create footprints to what the curse actually is.
I like it. That's really cool.
And then the final phase, you have to kind of identify the item at the heart of it. So if it's werewolves, it might be something like a moon medallion, or it might
Mhm.
be something like, I don't know, like a pet scratcher or something. I've no idea.
A pet scratcher.
No, that's a terrible example.
No, I love it. It would be so
It might be
cute.
that dog scratcher.
It could be anything. I mean, like,
It
it's
could
a
be
valid
it could
option.
be it could be absolutely anything. So
So that it's important for each one of those pieces on the clock, each one of those steps to escalate and to get worse.
Yes, yes, and it wouldn't be signposted by the navigator. It would just they wouldn't say, "Oh, you're in the second phase now." It would
Mhm.
just be it would be obvious that you're moving into it.
Yeah. It just starts to happen, you
Yes, yeah, and it gets more and more tense. And also, one of the great things we've got, which ties into the phases, is that so in Powered by the Apocalypse and in Brindlewood Bay, you have a thing called moves, which
Mhm.
essentially dictate all your actions within the game.
Yes, yes.
And we've got these special moves called badges because they're like scout badges.
Oh, I love that.
Basically, some of the moves for the scouts only activate in certain phases. I think that's really
Oh,
cool.
that is
So
really,
the
really cool.
yeah, so the leader of the group's more powerful in the final phase, the skipper basically, and then the medic has an ability in the third phase. People could
Ooh.
potentially be injured or like kind of mentally affected.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. And so, can I ask why you went for that approach other than like went for that approach instead of just having them be available all the time?
Just because it makes them feel kind of unique and special,
Hmm.
I think. And I think it gives them different utility at different phases of the game.
Hmm.
So obviously you could play the four phases in a one shot. We're calling it a pilot. Basically, it could be just be you can
Hmm.
go through the one day essentially with the curse, or you could play over months, where it could be
Hmm.
like the first phase could be like 3 sessions, second phase 3 sessions, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So, but with those abilities activating, then obviously that would come probably because you've got like 8 moves each.
Hmm.
Essentially, you can unlock 8 moves throughout the game. You start off with a basic one that you can use all the time, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like attached to your character on creation. And
Lovely.
then as you advance your character, you can take more badges or the moves.
Hmm.
And the one that's phase specific is like the third in. You can pick it at any time you want, basically. So if you're in the first phase and you wouldn't want obviously if you're in the second phase rather you wouldn't want to pick a special move that only happens in the first phase
Hmm. That's really
because
interesting.
you've already gone past it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. That's really cool. Yeah, I like that approach, making each of the characters feel special and having variety between each of the phases is also really important too. And I'm assuming, so there's obviously those character focused moves. Are there also more broader basic moves for everyone, or are those the only ones?
Yeah, no, the basic moves are at the heart of the game, really.
Mhm.
That's what you'll be using mostly. Um, so we've got the creep move, which is just basically it's called the scout move for us rather now. I've renamed some of these so recently. Um, so
All
the
good.
scout move is kind of your every day you push yourself or do something kind of like intense
Hmm.
or scary. And then you've got the curse move, which is anything to do with investigation
Like it.
or like research. So even if you're talking to someone trying to get information about the curse from them, you still use the curse move.
Hmm.
And then you've got the creek move. Sorry, the crew move, which is when you kind of like have an interaction on you have a boat in the game. Basically, it's really important. It's like kind of
Oh,
one of
cute.
the hearts of the game as well.
Hmm.
Because like I told you about my history and my background in sailing, so you use this boat on the river and you've got to travel up and down the creek quite often
That's
to
so
gather
cute.
clues. Yeah, it is cute. Yeah, and then so the crew move is used when you're on the boat,
Hmm.
and it's basically like interaction between your fellow scouts. And what you do is you clear misfortunes. Misfortunes kind of like conditions that have been negative
Hmm.
um, throughout the game,
That
so
is
you can
so
clear them
cute.
that way. And you also learn something about your fellow scout then as well.
Oh, that's fun. So it's just like a little, almost like group.
Yeah,
Uh,
like in the coming of age films, they always have those interviews between the characters where it's like oh,
yeah.
what are you thinking about going back to school and like all these things like all these films like Ferris Bueller and The Breakfast Club and the Goonies and all these.
Mhm.
You have these touching moments, and the kind of crew move is meant to reflect that.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I absolutely got that immediately. I was trying to like, what is the name of like that kind of scene because I got that where you just have that moment together, and you're able
Yeah.
to kind of almost be more raw and more serious in that moment, like kind of check
Yeah,
in, all of that.
exactly. Yeah, a bit more vulnerable, yeah. And also it kind of like it breaks up the kind of action as well. So if you're
Mhm.
hunting around the creek for clues all the time, then you want those moments slows down, like any
Mhm.
good film does. Like in Spirited Away and things like that, and other Ghibli films. There's those moments where it's kind of like just two characters talking to each other about
Mhm,
things, and it doesn't even have to be about the main kind of like narrative.
mhm. It can just
Um,
be role play, you know? So it helps
exactly,
kind of push that
exactly.
forward even more because a game that is focused on just like go, 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 go action all the time can get
Yeah,
very exhausting. And especially
yeah,
groups that love role play and that collaborative storytelling, having something that's set in the game already that promotes and kind of lets you do that even better. Like, yeah, this is like an actual move that we can take at this time to have a scene where we just role play together and just have a good time. Maybe we're all eating at the diner and it's just after
exactly.
we found out about the curse and, what are we thinking and all of that. Oh, that's really cute. I love
Yeah,
that a
because
lot.
you need those moments where you're kind of like huddling and
Hmm.
kind of discussing the clues as well.
Hmm.
Because you need to be theorizing as you go along, and that will also help the navigator because you do it out loud. You don't have a secret conversation.
Yeah.
So navigator's like, oh, they've mentioned this. They've put these two close together, which were absolutely disparate before. But now I'm thinking, actually, this might lead to this item, or this might. So navigator can think on their feet all the time through feedback from the players.
I like that a lot. And
I
so
quite
this
love the organic approach to it, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. And so it feels also like a pretty low prep game, especially for the navigator. Like you
Yeah,
don't
oh
have
yeah,
to
for
come in
sure.
with a lot of like ideas like, oh, this is how each of these steps of the mystery is gonna go, blah 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 blah. You can come in, like you said, with just the idea of the item and the curse, and then kind of let them run wild.
Yeah, we literally have for each curse, right? We have a small section on presenting it,
Hmm.
right? Introduce the watcher. So what is the what? Who is the watcher, and what is the watcher? What
Hmm.
creature is it? Like four or five locations. Okay.
Uh-huh.
4 or 5 suspects who are the person that owns the item,
Hmm.
and then a list of clues. That is literally it.
That's so
It's
good.
like
I
two
love that.
pages. It's like two A4 pages worth.
Yeah, that is like very simple. Like, oh, you can do it the day of, or
Yeah.
maybe like an hour before the
Oh,
session, and just
100%.
kind of get it
100%.
done.
Yeah,
And then
100%.
again, just let them go, just let them run wild because that's always my favorite part is when my players start to theorize and have their own ideas of what's going on and try, especially within Monster of the Week. Actually, I
Yeah,
love
yeah. Oh,
every single
yeah, for
time
sure.
they
Yeah, for
theorize. I'm like,
sure.
all right, yeah, give me some ideas, please.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I think that's when we're talking about indie games before. I think that's one of the indie games is it feels incredibly collaborative sometimes,
Mhm.
and we put that effort of the GM or the person running the game is just another player, and I
Mhm.
love the idea of like there's everyone's an equal player in it, and
Yes.
especially in this Brindlewood system in the in terms of everyone feels like they're contributing to narrative.
Mhm. Absolutely. And everyone just feels involved. And I have a preference towards that type of storytelling. So this just makes me really
Yeah.
happy hearing it all.
Yeah, I'm glad you're excited. Um, the next move is so cool. So,
Mhm.
in Brindlewood, there's a move called the Gold Crown Mysteries move, right? Which is basically what you do is there's a detective or a fictional detective that inspires the group of mavens.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's like like Miss Marple or someone like that.
Mhm.
But she's a famous novelist and she writes crime novels.
Oh.
And one of the moves in it is called the Gold Crown Mysteries move, where they hark back to a passage in a book the way they solved a mystery,
Mhm.
and they apply it to the current murder.
That's so cool.
It's such an amazing. When I read it, I was like, that's so cool. That's such a clever idea.
That is genius. That's just so fun. And
Yeah,
God, I love
it's
these.
really unique as well to the world. It feels
Mhm.
very specific to the world. So we've got the Hilda move, which is basically all your scouts grew up with a character called Aunt Hilda, and basically she used
Aw.
to tell stories about these cryptids and about these curses, basically.
Mhm.
And obviously, when you grow up as scouts, you didn't believe any of it. You think
Mhm.
she was maybe a bit, loopy or whatever, or a bit eccentric at the very least. Um, but it turns out obviously all of it was real.
Mhm.
And so one of the moves, the Hilda move, is all the scouts get together and one of you says, "Do you remember Aunt Hilda's story?" So you apply. So she was a scout when she was a kid in the
Mhm.
60s, and basically she was the person that previously the curse with the item that the peddler had sold.
That's so good.
So you hark back to an old story you heard around, the open fire in a cabin or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and then you apply it to the current curse, and then you get a bonus on the roll, and you learn something about the peddler. So you get kind of bonuses.
That's so cool. And so when it comes to the story, is that something that do the players make up a story, or is that on the navigator to make up a
Oh
story?
no, the players would make it up.
Oh, perfect. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So they
Amazing.
look at their current clues or they look at the current curse and how it's
Uh-huh.
working, and they go, "Oh, this is like something's approaching from the ocean or something." Do you
Mhm.
remember Hilda's story about those fishmen, or something, or the way she dealt with, like that acid rain or something that was coming all across the
So
woodlands?
cute.
Yeah,
That's a Oh, this is adorable. I love this so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I just love the system that Jason created. It's just uh so good for role playing, just so good
Mhm.
role playing.
Yeah, I
I like
agree
storytelling.
just with what you've been saying. I I absolutely agree, and I am going to be getting Brindle Bay Wood now.
Yep, yep, definitely you should.
or Brindlewood Bay. Wow, I know how to
Yep,
say
Brindlewood
words.
Bay, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that sounds absolutely genius. I adore it so much. And so actually, that's we talked quite a bit about, the idea of the story and the way the stories are set up within Cryptid Creeks. And I kind of want to get into the character creation a little bit and talk
Hmm.
about what are the options and the steps of creating a character within Cryptid Creeks.
Cool, yeah, we can do that. So you start traditionally the things you have initially are playbooks, actually.
Mhm.
And you can pick from with the Ashcan version. There's 5, but there'll be 8 in the final version.
Ooh.
And they range from like the conduit who is better at contacting the sort of like supernatural elements of the creek, so
Mhm.
the Eries and the Watcher, and they can use there's a basic move called the Eerie move, which is basically your supernatural move, and they're much more attuned to that.
Mhm.
They've got the
Cute.
Stowaway, which is kind of your sort of sneaky kind of character.
Aw.
The Skipper is kind of your leader character,
Mhm.
and the Negotiator, who's good at obviously talking and social interactions. They're your kind of, and then the medic is your kind of like healer and kind of like booster.
Mhm. I just love the
And
names of these also, I have to say. The playbook names are really cute.
yeah, they're all based on nautical terms
I love
because
it.
they're river scouts. They're all based. All of them will end up being based on that. There's things like the master
So,
and the
so cute.
shipwright. Yeah, thanks. So once you've picked your playbook, you put down your name, obviously, and you
Mhm.
can put down a scouting name, a nickname if you want.
Aw, cute.
You create your style.
Mhm.
So typically in any role playing game, you have like the way you look, your mannerisms potentially,
Mhm.
anything that you need to stand out unique.
Adorable.
Then you have two connections. So one connection is with a place in the town, basically. So at the beginning of the game, you create your town map. So you name your town that you're in, and you
Mhm.
kind of put down some locations or landmarks.
Mhm.
So one of the initial things you do is you create a connection with one of these places, and you maybe have a little story about it.
Oh, cute.
And the other thing you do is you determine your relationship with Aunt Hilda. So
Mhm.
are you related to her? Is a positive or negative relationship?
That's really cute. And so then you can I mean, that just gives you information right off the start of the dynamics between these characters and Hilda
Yeah.
and all of that. Love it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a section on background in games.
Mhm.
There's an amazing mechanic we haven't in playing, and it's these things putting crowns basically. And one of the crowns is called the crown of the queen. Yeah. And when you put
Mhm.
it on, you have to describe your old lady investigator
Aw.
um, as a young person, their relationships, their like kind of like like marriage, their children, their
Mhm.
jobs. So but when you put this crown on, you're kind of forced before the end of a sort of like session to go into their backstory a bit. But having
Oh,
this right
yeah.
up front, we're having this because it's a very specific location we've got, and Aunt Hilda's kind of like a very important character within the
Yeah.
fiction. So.
Yeah, for sure. I like that a lot. I mean, both approaches I think are really good, especially building up the town together and like locations. I
Yeah.
think is a really great way to get the players invested in the world because that's actually something similar to what I did when I built my campaign for my Monster of the Week game. Is that I
Hmm.
had the players create a bunch of NPCs that they knew and were either related to or what their relationship was to them, and then
Yeah.
some locations, and they basically filled out the world for me. And so
Yeah,
when I
it's great.
started the game, I really only like created like maybe two places, and those were just and those
Yeah,
were
that's
just
brilliant.
involved with the start of the mystery.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what we want from this as well. We want that kind of like the player creativity.
Yeah, absolutely love that.
Let them
And I
build the
love
world
how it
around
pushes
them.
it that way.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So then we got milestones, and this is important
Mhm,
because this is the way you earn XP, basically. And at the end of each session, they're called episodes in this because it's meant to feel like a Saturday morning cartoon.
mhm. Perfect.
Um, so the milestones are questions that you need to answer whether you've covered them during the session. So
Mhm,
the first one is, did you uphold the River Scout promise? Now, the River Scout promise is tied to safety tools. And it's
mhm.
basically about respecting, different backgrounds or no discrimination and like respect to your navigator. All
Oh,
these
that's
things. They're kind of like what's the word? Like a list of etiquette.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you uphold those principles that you learn at the beginning of the game, then you get an XP.
That's so cool. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of promoting good, kind of like
Yeah,
safety at the table.
being a good person.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. Did you encounter the curse? Did you discover two or more clues? Did you form any new connections? Did you overcome a perilous situation? And did you learn about the peddler?
Oh, that's so fun.
If you answer any of these, you get XP.
And so is it a group thing or is it an individual thing? Like the individual
Individual thing.
players?
Oh, it'll be a group thing. Sorry, you get XP each. Yeah,
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's adorable.
yeah.
And
So
then
it's all
so
done
when you
with a group.
love it. And that also just makes it really sweet and kind of puts the group even further together is by
Yeah,
making those types of things a group activity versus
yeah,
solo. And
exactly.
so
Yeah.
when you get XP,
Hmm.
what can you use that on?
So you can either get an extra badge, a new badge.
Mhm.
You can increase your strength modifiers. So your strengths are physical, athletics, smart. Hang on, what are the five different ones? Sorry, I've only just finished creating this. So
All good.
uh, your strengths are there. They are. So athletic, smart, cool, suave, and attuned. So
Oh, those are
athletics,
fun.
obviously physical stuff, even
Mhm,
dexterity. Smart is kind of like mental aptitude, research strategy.
mhm.
Cool is kind of like nerves, steady nerves, confidence, leadership. Suave is social interactions, charm, and influence. And attuned is anything supernatural related to the curse.
Ooh, I like those a lot.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so you can boost one of them, you can get a
Mhm.
new badge, or you can add to your penknife. Now your penknife is essentially like a multi-tool, like a Swiss
Oh,
Army knife, basically.
uh-huh.
And each scout starts the game with three attachments. They could
Mhm.
be anything you want. It could be magnifying glass, like a knife, a saw, anything that fit in your pocket, basically, like can opener.
Oh, that's cute.
And then you can, when you get an XP, you can spend it on uh, an extra attachment. And
That's
those
a
attachments could be used to gain advantage on rolls, basically.
uh-huh. Which actually I did see that when I was checking out the preview page for the Kickstarter, someone was
Hmm.
asking about why you would use three dice when this is a two dice system, kind of similar to Powered by the Apocalypse.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sure.
and so I'm guessing the advantage,
Yeah,
what you just said there with having an advantage, that's where you're using three dice.
exactly. Well, I mean, what's your opinion? Do you think because we're it's a little bit of a brainstorming. So I don't know how many dice to sell with the game. So like, would you say to sell two core dice, or would you say that three would be good?
Hmm.
Like these are custom dice, so like obviously makes a difference.
I mean, I think the thing is you could go either way if the tool and the advantage comes up enough times, I think 3 dice would make a lot of sense. If that
Yeah.
comes up often, people are using that, and you're going to be needing 3 dice, either like
Yeah.
at least one time a session and like consistently throughout the game. 3 dice makes sense if it's going to be a rare occasion thing, because most people, especially who play these games, have a d6 around, and even if they don't, a d6 is very
Yeah.
easy to come by through
Oh yeah,
like
of course, absolutely, yeah.
board games. So if
Yeah.
it's something that like rarely comes up and like this is a very special occasion,
Mhm.
like one time throughout the entire arc of this story or this entire campaign, then I would say 2 would make sense. So it
I think
depends
it's going
on
to come up a
how you
lot.
roll
That's the
this.
thing. It's going to come up a lot because the reason why is because they're used for disadvantage as well. So you roll three
Mm,
dice and you take the lowest two.
mm.
So
I think it makes
and one
sense
of
to
the
have 3.
main reactions from the navigator is to put a misfortune on the scout, and the misfortune is called disadvantage. So it's going to be used a lot.
Yeah, I would say 3 then, if it's going to be
Yeah,
used
I
a lot
agree.
with disadvantage, advantage,
Nice
and
one.
all of that.
Yeah. So that answers my question. That answers your question and also helps me a lot.
Love it. Love a little
Brilliant.
bit of a
Teamwork.
workshop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Workshop mid interview. Yeah. So yeah, so yeah, I love the three obviously 6 dice systems anyway because it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to source them, like you say.
Mhm,
It's nice to have custom dice which will sell with the game anyway. But
mhm.
I haven't told anyone about these dice. I haven't shown anyone these dice, but they're going to be incredible.
Oh, I'm so
They're
excited.
done by Rune Fable, and they're basically liquid core. And
Ooh.
the D6s are going to have like these Eries. Some of the Eerie designs are like these like weird, like sort of like oily blobs,
Mhm.
basically with eyes. You've probably seen them during some of the art or on the
Yeah, yeah.
preview page. But basically, they're going to be inside the liquid ice, and they're going to be moving about when you roll
That
it.
is so cute.
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
cute.
I cannot, as someone who has made a lot of dice and I was a dice maker for a while,
Oh, nice.
that makes me incredibly excited to see these.
Yeah. So the other one, which we'll post on the Kickstarter before launch, obviously. The other one is like representing the river, and it's going to be like beautiful. Again, it's going to be liquid core inside, but it's going to have like these. I don't know how Miles creates them, but you probably make way more idea than I have. But it's like these kind of like almost like seaweed like blobs inside
Mhm.
the resin.
Ooh,
Um, so it's going to have like the river and a kind of like a kelp or seaweed inside or around the edges.
that's so cool. I cannot wait to see these. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I'm really excited because he's bringing them to Tabletop Scotland in a couple of weeks, so I'll
Mhm.
get to see the kind of prototypes.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think, I mean, this is just from my dice goblin opinion as well. 3 dice also means that you get more cool dice. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, even if they didn't come up all the time, maybe it would still be worth it to have 3 because they're just really
Yeah,
cool.
I think they'll come up. I think they'll easily come up enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's awesome that it does come up a lot, and that also gives it its own thing as well. I don't know how the Brindlewood Bay system works and whether or not it has those advantage disadvantage things, but even in Powered by the Apocalypse, it kind of differentiates itself from it, and you have that advantage disadvantage, and even having the conditions causing the disadvantage
Hmm.
versus like just a minus to something too. So it still
Yeah,
kind of leaves
yeah,
it up to chance. I like that a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I think 3 to 6 dice sounds nice anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Nice. I mean, three's a good number.
Yeah,
Even if it's like multiples of 3, all that. Love it.
yeah. So that's the kind of character. That's all you do really. You pick your badges, your playbook, and then you're away. And you got a basic badge you start with, and then as you said, as you upgrade, as you
Mhm.
advance, you can pick up other ones if you choose.
That's so fun. I love that a lot. The character creation is also seems very simple too, that it's an easy game to pick up just
Oh,
for a one shot. Like I want
it's
to
dead
or
simple. It's dead simple. The whole game is just
perfect.
like, and it means that if we've got say a 150-page game, then we can
Mhm.
sort of like 60 pages, 70 pages can be like half the book can basically be the rules
Mhm.
and the art, and then the other half can be like advanced kind of rules and to push the narrative a lot further, lean more into the peddler and Hilda,
Mhm.
and then we can have kind of like rolling tables for inspiration, so like curse examples, and then we can
Mhm.
have some real good tutorial curses, so like at different levels, because each curse has a difficulty level, so that's
Mhm.
like easy, moderate, and advanced. And then so we could create those samples so people can dive straight into it. You know, they could have all the locations done, all the kind of like the suspects and the clues.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I love that was actually something I was going to ask is if it was going to include like pre-written adventures and stuff like that that you could just,
Yeah,
pick up and play.
we're gonna have everything with this. We're gonna have pre-written adventures. We're gonna have what's it called? Pre-generated. We're
Oh,
gonna
perfect.
have yeah. So people, I just want people to be able to dive straight into it
Mhm.
with very very little prep. Just a quick read through of the book.
Yeah,
And
I adore that. I think that's again, I always like and I've seen a lot for you as well that you like accessibility within games. And that's a big
yes,
thing for you. And so having those pre-generated characters, pre-written adventures, making it as easy as possible for people to just be able to get in and play and not have to
yeah,
worry about like needing to learn every single rule and all of that
yeah.
information.
We've also got Chris in the project. He's a accessibility consultant. Basically, he's worked on like Haldore, you know, for Critical Role
Mhm.
and Cobalt Press's new game. He's very very good at what he does. So
Can you
we've
say
gone all out on this one. Sorry,
can you say his name again very quick because I
Chris
think it cut
Hopper.
out. Chris Hopper. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome that you
yeah, he's
have.
got incredible kind of like experience with accessibility. So he'll be able to do you know like e-reader stuff and the different considerations digitally.
Mhm.
And then Emily, who's doing the layout, will be able to put like like color coded like along the page edges, the chapters, and like making sure the interior layouts like and the fonts are really clear and kind of accessible.
Oh, that's perfect. And actually, the color coded, like being able to have color coding within a book like that is really, really useful. I only
It is,
have
yeah,
one, maybe like one book, I want to say, that has that. And it's something I always enjoy when I pick it up because I'm like, all right, I know that the purple section is the GM stuff,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
know the
There you go.
pink section
Exactly,
is that. And
exactly.
then so it makes it a lot easier when I'm just looking at the book and I'm flipping
Yeah.
the pages. I'm like, okay, I know when to stop here because this is the information that I need.
So
Yes.
our last release, Dragon Dowser, had that effect. So it's got
Hmm.
four different suits for the cards sections.
Hmm.
So they're represented by different colours.
Oh, that's so cute.
So easy to find spades straight away.
Oh, that's so again so easy to flip through because that's always
Hmm.
whenever you run a game or even if you're playing it, but usually I think probably more so for game runners, it's always a interesting time when you're trying to search very quickly for a rule or a section just to reference it while
Yeah,
you play. Having that color coding makes it so much easier.
yeah, and hyperlinks are great as well on the
Yes,
PDFs. Chapter
yes, they are.
hyperlinks are great. Um,
Makes my life so much easier.
yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert on accessibility. I worked with the disabled community my whole adult life actually, but
Hmm.
my daughter's disabled as well. Um, she's got a visual impairment, but so I'm very very passionate about it. But I was never an expert really
Hmm.
um, until I started exploring it with role playing games. And now I'm trying to learn more and more, and I'm sure I'll learn a ton from Chris this
Hmm.
process over the next 6 months, which will be wonderful for me in terms of how I approach game design, actually.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that I mean, that you're open and honest. Like, yeah, I'm not an expert about it, but you do
Oh,
want to
no,
learn
nowhere
more.
near. No, no.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
just the openness for learning more and expanding your knowledge and all of that, I think is
Mm.
fantastic. And I admire that.
I think a lot of it is to do with intention. I think if your intentions
Hmm.
are good and you want to learn and you want to
Hmm.
kind of like improve all the time, I think people do know that. I think people appreciate that as well. I
Hmm.
think, and being open, honest about stuff is good as well.
Absolutely.
Like for instance, Inspirals, right? We did
Hmm.
so much work with the deaf community and my friends in the community in
Hmm.
terms of accessibility, in terms of consultancy. Not to swear, but the bloody game doesn't have an index.
Oh, no.
So that's a pure example of me fully focusing on accessibility, inclusivity, and then
Hmm.
forgetting something such at heart on the principle of accessibility. So
Oh,
there's going to be another edition of that coming down the line.
I mean but that's also, people are human too.
Oh,
It's easy
100%.
to
It's our
forget
first game, right?
something. Yeah.
It's our first game.
Oh,
Like
I
there's
didn't
going
know
to be
that was your
so many
first game.
mistakes.
That's awesome.
No, it's got no spelling mistakes in it, but it's got no index.
Oh man. I
Yeah.
I I mean, I just think it's just funny to think of, how it's like all that work and forget something as simple as an index. But
Yep. There you go. Exactly.
but it's awesome that you're gonna like go back and redo it and so that you can,
Oh, 100%.
fix
Yeah.
that mistake and all of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You can
Oh,
always
that's
make
awesome.
amends.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, getting back a bit more into the Cryptid Creek stuff.
Hmm.
So, when it comes to, I guess, the encounters in Cryptid Creeks, is that usually something that's going to be solved more through nonviolent options or more so like combat encounters? I'm just curious because I think that affects the tone of these types of games a lot, and I'm curious which way that
Yeah.
you went.
So there's no injury,
Mhm.
severe injury or death in the game. So that discounts that. Within Brindlewood Bay, you can die quite a lot.
Oh no.
Your old lady can be pushed off a cliff edge quite regularly because you're against like a really really savage cult,
Mhm,
basically, like a Lovecraftian type cult.
mhm.
Um, where in our game it's just like someone's like I say, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or some like it's not meant to be comical necessarily, and we have got a section in the game about tone. So
Mhm.
because it involves a curse, you can go anything from like very light-hearted, kind of quirky, like something like the Hilda series, or something very, very dark, like in like Monster of the Week sessions.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah, I like that flexibility.
yeah, also like conversation zero is an opportunity to have a conversation with the
Mhm,
players and the group to say like, what do you not want to see?
mhm.
Lines and veils we have in place within this game as well.
Very, very
And then
important.
decide whether you don't want to see anyone harmed, or you don't want any sort of like death within the townsfolk or anything like that. You
Mhm.
know, uh, and things like people hate the idea of like sickness and disease as well, and that's quite prevalent in curses. So like avoid that as well, if you wish to.
Yeah.
So anything could be skipped around, and then basically, so we're more about intense situations or kind of like peril, situations that are perilous, kind of you're having to bar doors against an kind of like creature, like the stink spirit from like Spirited Away could be something, couldn't it? Like this like combination of all the sewage in the river
Mhm.
type thing as example, and it kind of like you kind of having to keep people from being ill, trying to keep it away or trying to clear it out with like hoses and things. Anything can happen.
I love
So
that.
it's completely down to the players and navigator to kind of like expand this narrative and this kind of like fiction, but
Mhm.
yeah, no kind of like necessarily combat.
Okay. I love that, and I love how it can also be like whatever creative solutions and creative ways to get around these as well
Oh
is
yeah,
almost like I mean, I shouldn't say the default, but like that's
it encourages role playing, right? It
yeah.
encourages like inventiveness,
Mhm.
and
It's
and
not
it
just
also
like
encourages,
the
which I
monster.
like in games more than anything. I like art games. I like comedy. I like
Mhm.
when it becomes a laugh fest.
Mhm.
Like a giggle fest. I love that when it, even
Mhm.
if it's in a serious Dungeon Dragons like session or something, like where everyone starts laughing about something. It's brilliant. Or you get some really quirky NPC.
Of course. Yeah, I think those are
So
always
we
the
want
best
that in this.
moments.
Yeah, we really want to encourage that in this game. It doesn't have to be comedic at all,
Mhm.
but it's gonna be quirky at the very, very least. It's gonna be quirky.
That's amazing. And actually, I'm curious, and if you would like to share, I'm assuming that you've done quite a bit of play testing for Cryptid Creeks.
Not a huge amount. We've done a few sessions.
Hmm.
It's actually being played right now. Spoilers, because I can't say it now because this won't come out till we launch. But Girls Run These Worlds are actually doing an actual play of it now
Oh, that's
today.
fun.
So and it's going to how to play. It's a how to play series.
Hmm.
So that's going to
That's
be quite
amazing.
interesting.
Yeah, no, that's going to be insanely interesting to see. And so, uh, I'm curious, is a lot of the playtesting going to happen when the Kickstarter is kind of up and fulfilled and while you're finishing up the game?
So basically, we finished the Ashcan on the 15th, which is Tuesday. But yeah, Tuesday from
Hmm.
now. And then we're going to send the Ashcan version out to literally every,
Oh, absolutely.
like shoot it off to every 100 emails or something,
Hmm.
or anyone who, we can send it off to you as well if you want to have a little go on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our way of going to be our way of getting feedback. So we're going to send this Ashcan
Mhm.
out and then get feedback and how people are finding it, how it's not balanced. It's not going to be fully balanced yet,
Mhm.
but the thing is, the core of the game's already done. The core of the game's there. It's about fleshing it
Oh,
out really and adding content, adding inspirational content for the navigator.
okay,
And
that's actually amazing. I'm just
yeah,
curious because I haven't talked to too many like really I haven't talked to too many like large kickstarting projects or anything like that. And so
yeah,
I'm always curious of the process, how much do you complete before you start playtesting? How much playtesting do you do and all those different steps. So that's really interesting to hear. And yes, I'm definitely down to if you want to send the ash can, I would be.
yeah. I'm going to send it. So I'm going to put it on Twitter and various social medias and Discord. Say like, who wants to give us a go?
Oh, perfect.
Um,
I can.
yeah,
I'll bully my group into playing a
yeah,
game
that'd be
with me.
awesome. Yeah, it'd be so good to get some feedback and some like even some video recording. It'd be so cool.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and then yeah, so
Hi. So instead of doing an end bit, we're going to be doing this kind of mid episode section with the promo here because let's try something new. If you hate it, let me know. If you like it, let me know. To start it all off, hi. I hope that you are enjoying the RPG Goblin so far in this episode about Cryptid Creeks. I think it's just really, really adorable, and I can't wait for it to come out on Kickstarter, which again is going to be on September 5th. So please make sure to check in the description of this episode for a link to the Kickstarter page, or you can search Cryptid Creeks on Kickstarter and find it easily. Again, this is going to be coming out on September 5th, so you're not going to be able to actually pledge for the game until September 5th, but you can set up to be notified when it does come out. If you're enjoying the RPG Goblin so far, please make sure to leave a review for us wherever you listen to your podcasts, because it means the absolute world to me. Any little bit of support this podcast gets makes my day, and it helps keep me going because God, I love making this show and I love talking about games and I want to do it more. And also make sure to follow the RPG Goblin wherever you listen to it too, because you get notified when episodes come out and it's great. And finally, before we roll our promo, which is going to be for the Big Campaign podcast, which is absolutely fantastic. I've had Jeff on here before to talk about Pathfinder First Edition, and his podcast is so very cool, and I love the concept of it so much, and so we're going to be listening to that in a moment here. But first, I want to say, hey, the next episode of the RPG Goblin will be coming out September 8th. And it's going to be a TTRPG topic episode where I bring on Zachariah once again to talk all about choosing your next game. So if you've been playing a long-term campaign for a while now and it just wrapped up, or you're playing short games and you're just looking for something new, we talk all about how to choose the next game for you and how to pick it so that the next game that you're going to be playing is going to be awesome and everyone's going to be on board for it. So that is what the next episode is going to be about. And again, that's going to be coming out September 8th. And so I can't wait for that to come out. It's going to be fantastic. And I think that is the end of this mid bit here. Let's get into the promo.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeff, and I run the Big Campaign Stories podcast. Our story focuses on four people working at a repo company, trying to keep afloat among a corporate dystopia and crushing debt. The world is one that we have been playing in and working on for a long time. The current homebrew setting is played with Pathfinder First Edition rules, but with more of a modern feel to it. Think something like Blade Runner or Snow Crash, but with magic. We try to release every Thursday, and when we cannot, we come up with small side episodes focusing on each character to help expand the world and lore. So, if you like greasy breakfasts, people trying to pay bills, and the occasional Lovecraftian monster, give us a listen. Alright, thanks.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it'd be so good to get some feedback and some like even some video recording. It'd be so cool.
Oh, absolutely.
And then yeah, so my process differs, but ideally in my ideal world, I'd have like 80 to 90% of the game complete, including all the images. So Dragon Dowser, when we went to Kickstarter, was completely finished, apart a couple of pieces of art on the playing cards. But that meant that the fulfillment's like 2 months maximum.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
To film, which is wonderful for backers.
Oh, for sure.
It took me a year and 2 months. So and we launched a Kickstarter with about 10%, 15% of it done. So that's but that creates a lot of kind of difficulties for the creator, I think, really. Pressure, I think is the word.
Yeah, for sure.
So Cryptid Creeks is probably 50 to 60 complete in terms of the system, in terms of the art assets, in terms of team dynamic, all these things. So deal with that because it will take about 6 months to finish.
Yeah, that's not bad, and that's really interesting to hear that process as well, because I've definitely seen quite a few Kickstarters that are like, they have the basic concept of the game like figured out, but they have no work on actually writing it yet, and that ends up I think it's Urban Shadows second edition is like 2 months, or not 2 months, 2 years or something like that since.
It's not, is it?
I think so. It's at least a year.
Oh, that's I'm not saying. I think because I remember it was introduced to Kickstarter. There was like a game. There was a video game called it's a space game basically. It's one of the biggest Kickstarters ever. Basically, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but basically it's been in development for like 12 years or something.
Oh wow!
So and they're still collecting pre-orders for the ships that you can game. Basically.
I mean, like, I don't, I think part of it is like, mistakes with planning, and also some outside forces can affect what how well you can get everything completed. But
there's a couple of factors to it. Yeah, there's a couple of factors to it. Right, one of them is the feature creep. In other words, when we launched Inspira, a grand, £1,000, right? And my brother and my friend who were kind of launching it with me, we didn't think in a million years we'd make £1,000, right? And it made 30,000, right?
Oh wow!
So,
I mean, congrats.
So yeah, amazing. But inevitably, because it hit all those stretch goals, it kind of expanded the project beyond my initial scope. So therefore, it took a lot longer to produce, obviously, because you're adding stuff and you're bringing different team members on board.
Yeah, for sure.
So that changes the timeline. The other thing that changes everything is your status with it as a designer. Now, my status as a designer when it's Inspirals was in a part-time job, earning no money at all, with 2 children. My status now is a full-time game designer. So I can afford to have something 50 or 60% finished. Whereas back then, if I was to re-release a game and I was in the same status, I would make sure it's finished before I launched a crowdfund.
Yeah, does
that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's something. It'd be interesting because that's something, at least for me, I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, is like the plan behind making a Kickstarter. And I think a lot of people go in with expectations or plans that end up backfiring or putting you in a worse situation where you're not prepared like that. So it's interesting to hear kind of your experience with it and the approach that you've taken to make it easier on yourself. And on the people.
I don't think fund's good for everyone. Like, I think people are so tempted because they hear buzzwords about it. But the actual month of fundraising is incredibly stressful.
Oh, I bet.
Fulfillment is even more stressful. And also feels like some people go on there to use it as an advertisement for store. That's not really what it's for. It's made to it in order for you to build a bit of a community up around something and have the funds to produce the game as you envision it. So it's not for everyone. I think people misinterpret what it's for, and that's a bit of a shame, and they end up hitting a barrier, I think.
Yeah, that is very, very unfortunate, and I hope that more people do put into consideration their intent with the Kickstarter before doing it, because it does end up being so much more work than you think. So
yeah, exactly.
Let's
Yeah.
hope that people, even just having more information out there, being more honest about it too, definitely helps.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a consultant, a crowdfund consultant. That's what I kind of do as a sort of like a side hobby.
Oh,
And
that's actually
I
really
found that
cool.
really fulfilling because I actually love doing Kickstarters. I actually love setting the
Mhm,
page up. I love working out the little dynamics of it, like producing the videos, all these things. I love it.
mhm.
Um, and I've worked with other people now, and I've had 3 clients, and it's been really really good.
That's
And
amazing.
they're funding and are doing well, and
That's
it's very inexpensive. I don't charge much either. It's just almost like a bit of a fun thing to do on the side.
yeah, it's a it's something that you have fun with that makes you happy. So,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's so cool and it's a lot of learning experience, especially in the job that you're in with being a game designer and publisher and all of that. It
Mm.
gives you experience and it gives you you learn a lot from it too, and you learn
Oh, a
things.
hell of a lot, yeah,
Yeah,
from
you
other
learn
people.
what not to do and what to do. And
I mean, that's the best thing. Stick the best for you, really. I
Mhm.
mean, there were so many statement spirals, like so many, not just an index missing. It was like there's so much over promising, which made me think about future projects and like what you offer and what you kind of like want in fulfillment.
Mhm.
And again, people just don't realize people put their goal at the wrong amount. You know, even a
Mhm.
simple thing like that can railroad you.
That's so interesting. Man, I just find this completely fascinating, and
Mm,
I mean, personally, I would love to keep talking about this, but I think that we should probably
yeah.
get a bit more on track. But I just find that absolutely fascinating to hear about, and thank you for sharing as well, because not a lot of people feel comfortable doing that, so I appreciate you
No
doing
worries. I'm all for transparency.
absolutely love it. And so, getting back into Cryptid Creeks, I think I'd like to cover a little bit about the uh navigator stuff.
Yeah.
Like we covered earlier, it's pretty low prep, especially on the navigator side. Though
Hmm.
I'd like to discuss what is the role of the navigator within this game, because I think different games, the role of whoever's running it can differ depending on the setting and the basic idea for the game and what stories it's good at. What is the role of the navigator in this game?
Let me read you the introduction to Navigator section. So, your main purpose in the game is to guide your players through the setting as they identify this cursed object. There are 3 elements you'll be focusing on. One, presenting the Creek characters and cryptids as part of a genuine community.
Oh, cute.
2, bringing drama to the game through the spreading curve and its impact on the townsfolk.
Mhm.
And 3, planting clues to the cursed object for your player to uncover. That's basically the triple kind of approach.
I like
And
that a
that's
lot.
basically all you need to do. That's basically
Yeah.
all you need to do. So like any role playing game, you're kind of representing the characters and
Mhm.
the kind of community. You're creating drama, which you have to
Mhm.
do as a as the running game,
Mhm.
because there's no moral narrative without a bit of a
Mhm.
tensity.
Of course.
And then plant the clues.
I love that. It's so wickedly simple. It's amazing. Like
Yeah.
I can't get over it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot you can go into as a navigator. Specific, so things like down like a breakdown of this basic moves and how the players might use them,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, and like a deep dive into the badges and the special moves,
Oh,
so
I
that
love
you could if you read all this material, then you'll be prepped to
Mhm.
start off very quickly to dive in sessions quickly because you can anticipate.
Yeah, I love that, and that actually kind of reminds me of. I mean, I know it's for sure in Monster of the Week where it does that same breakdown of all of the basic moves, and it's
Yes.
like here's ways they can use them, and here's ways that you can even use them against the players if it's hard, if they fail, and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
so
but but
cool.
there's but in Monster of the Week, which we've got in this as well, is another powered by the apocalypse kind of trend.
Yes.
Is obviously the navigator or the keeper, aren't they? Yeah, the keeper.
Hmm.
The keeper can do reactions on a -6 or less roll from the players.
Yes.
So we've got a list of their reactions. We've got a list of their principles. So like one of the principles is reveal the mystery through play, bring the creek to life, personify the curse, make the world otherworldly, and create opportunities for the crew move. We said about it can become quite action heavy. So you want a navigator to kind of go, well, maybe you should go to your boat now, or maybe you should travel to this other town. And then it gives an opportunity to have crew move when they're on the water then.
Oh, that's so good.
Like the navigator is literally navigating the session to feel more balanced, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the role of the GM. You are, at least in my opinion, I always love using that role more as a way to help guide a story versus here's all of the things that happen. And that's why I love Powered by the Apocalypse, like its take on that role, because having the principles is super, super important to kind of understand what you're supposed to be doing to help create the atmosphere and create the opportunities for this story, because it's like that young adult story and that coming to age and all of that. It's important to have those moments where they're just by themselves talking and all of that. And so having that in the principles helps push that even further. And when you're playing the game, you're going to look at that and be like, oh, maybe it's time for a crew move. Like maybe it's time for them to just sit down and talk. And I love how it just all fits together. It's like a puzzle.
Exactly. It is building a puzzle. Yeah. As a group, really everyone is building it. Yeah. And some of the reactions, so like some reactions are give scouts a misfortune, place a scout in a perilous situation, separate the crew, break their pocket knife, damage their boat, sabotage their clubhouse.
Oh no.
Have an official show up, introduce a meddling local or a rival crew, make the Eries troublesome, have the peddler appear, and escalate the curse.
Yeah. No, those are so straightforward. Like you know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but not making suggestions of what those things will be within that curse run, but having kind of like these ideas, these of kind of like how you can create more tension within the sessions? How can you kind of like put scouts against it? How can you kind of lead to interesting sort of like spikes in the fiction?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of guidance in obstacles that you can bring in. I love that a lot. And actually, I'm curious with the they're not the misfortunes. Are those like actual set ones that are in the game? Like, is there certain ones like this one does this?
No, so say like a car, or say that one of the kids kind of like nearly got hit by a car and like leapt over the bonnet or something, and they got a bit of a bruising. Then you'd have a condition, or you'd have a misfortune on your physical, your athletic stat, say. Or say you kind of like you get drunk at a baby sham at a party or something, and you kind of your suave stat would take misfortune possibly because the way you're interacting with others.
I see. So it's dependent on whatever you do, and then it affects just a stat that would relate to that.
So it's just one of the reactions basically. So, but it's the one that they use the most to give them kind of disadvantage on their kind of like their rolls.
I like it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted. I was curious if it was something specific or. So I think that's fantastic. Is there a set amount of time that those usually last, or is there a way that they're? I mean, I know that you said when they do the crew move, they can.
Yeah, so there's loads of ways to clear them. So you're going to get a lot, but you're also going to be there's the badges clear them. Some of them, the medic especially has loads of ways to reduce them. One thing I haven't told you about is if you get 4 misfortunes, you develop a knot.
Ooh.
Now, knots are kind of like these stages you go through where the curses start to impact on you.
Oh.
So these misfortunes actually have a building mechanic where they kind of they create a lot of tension within your character. So when the first knot tightens, you kind of experience nightmares themed around the curse.
Ooh,
and you remove one less misfortune at the clubhouse. And the second knot tightens, you get irritated and confrontational with the crew, and you perform the crew move using your lowest strength.
Ooh.
And when the final knot tightens, you are consumed by the curse and try to actively sabotage the crew's attempts to find the curse.
Oh no.
Yeah, seriously. And the voice also begins to invade your mind.
Oh no. Okay, that's terrible.
Yeah, that's really bad. But it would take a lot to get to that point. So you're talking about 16, no, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 misfortunes, uncontested, basically.
Yeah, and
So
that
it's
would happen
unlikely
for
it's
probably
unlikely ever
long.
got there. But if you're playing over months sessions, it could happen.
Oh no. That's actually really interesting though, is that almost a little bit of that corruption. Like it's just
Yeah,
getting to you and
yeah,
it's getting ooh.
exactly. Yeah,
That's
because
a
it will
really
because the
cool
curse will
approach.
affect the
Yeah.
townsfolk. Definitely, it will affect the
Mhm.
townsfolk. Whether like in a focused way or whether like offhand.
Mhm.
But it kind of but it should also affect the players definitely, even though they're more attuned to central.
That's so cool. I like that a lot. That's a really cool way to just add, because yeah, the players are also people. Like they're also people
Yeah,
that live in this town. So it makes
yeah, just
sense and
kids,
it
just
yeah,
teenagers.
and it's like, it makes sense and it makes them like yeah, they are special in the way that they are figuring this out, but they're also still a normal person and
Hmm.
it still lets them feel almost like powerless, but they still have agency. Like you can still
Yeah,
be
exactly.
affected by these things. That's
It
really cool.
just changes their approach to role playing. Basically, that's what it does.
Yeah, and that
Um,
too. You get to introduce some really interesting role-playing opportunities as well.
it can be cleared as well by certain characters, certain moves.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and still
it's
letting
not necessarily permanent.
yeah, letting it be cleared is also really cool. Especially if like you could do it through even like using some of the cryptids or supernatural things as well. Like that would
Yes,
also be interesting. I
exactly,
love it.
exactly.
That's so cool. I love it so much.
Thank you.
Oh, that
I'm
sounds
really
awesome.
excited, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. It's very clear and I don't blame you because this sounds again amazing and I'm excited for it and I'm trying to think if there are some other things. I have two more questions for sure that I would like to ask, but that's kind of
Yeah,
coming to the end bit.
no
Is there
worries.
anything else that we haven't touched upon that we should before we start closing out?
I don't think so because I think the Ash can will be ready soon, very
Mhm.
soon, and we'll send that out to everyone, and then we'll let people sort of discover the rest of the mechanics and kind
Yeah.
of even start maybe even formulating their own curses, which
Ooh.
would be so cool.
Yes. I
Um,
bet that's also exciting for you for people to get their hands on, this content, this game and be able to make it their own.
I've really wanted to design something that people will actively play because I have found that a lot of people they make a role playing game and it's not played by many people. People pick it up or buy it and it
Mhm.
goes on the shelf, and unless it's kind of like in the conversation nationally or internationally,
Mhm.
then I don't know it wins loads of awards. I don't think people are readily play it that often unless they're very passionate about something.
Mhm.
I want this to be much more accessible in terms of in their own content and making it open license, like Creative Commons,
Mhm.
and people making that, like the whole curses and characters and scouts, different locations, different cultures.
Mhm.
And I just want it to expand that way naturally and organically. It'd be wonderful if I could do some like jams on itch.io and things,
Yeah,
you know.
that would be amazing. I love
And
that that's what you're
yeah,
reaching for.
I particularly want scout groups and summer camps to be playing it. That's kind of what I'm aiming for.
That would be so cute.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be so good to get feedback from them, get some photos, and like with the book and stuff.
Mhm.
With that, their whole summer camp experience is involved with this game. You know.
For sure. I think that would be amazing to see, and that would also just be a really fun, like, activity to do over, like, a
Oh
summer
man, how
camp.
could we? I mean, I expect a lot of scout groups and in fact, summer camps, especially summer camps, do role playing games.
Like, they have
I'm
to.
sure that's part of it. That must be part of it.
Like it would just make sense, fun group activity, work together, problem solving, all of that. Like
Yeah,
makes sense.
I'm almost certain that like 70% of them do role playing games. But it's nice to have a role playing game that's about like summer camp and like
Hmm.
scouts and like young people.
For sure. Sorry, I just saw the message from Ben in the chat and made me laugh.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, that's amazing, and I really hope that people do play it like that because I wish I was in a summer camp and could play this.
Yeah,
Like that feels
same.
like the
I'm the
peak
same.
way.
Yeah. I
Oh
mean,
man.
we haven't had them until recently in the UK. Really,
Mhm.
it was not a thing that we did. Um, but I mean, I'm 100% going to run my own one with this game. I mean, how could that be?
Yeah. I mean, why don't we do just like a TTRPG summer camp? Like a bunch of people,
We should
bunch of
do
people.
that. We should definitely do that.
We
Yeah.
should. Like that would be just because I know that there's like I can't remember exactly what it is, but like it's an event where they run D&D in like an old castle. And I know there's a lot of people that do like specialized things like that, and I just think that's a really fun like vacation idea. Like
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually
go
doing that
out.
next year. I didn't tell you
Oh,
that, but
that's so
we're
cool.
doing yeah, we're doing a castle experience
Oh, I hope that's a great time because they
um
look amazing.
in Wales. That's going to be really good fun. And we're also doing a writing retreat for all my sort of mutuals in the UK.
Oh, that's so
In
fun
hopefully in
too.
Scotland.
Oh man, I hope that those go amazing because again, that just sounds like
Yeah, thanks.
because this is such a this hobby and this I'm community with the TTRPGs is so big and there are so many people and it's so important to build that community up even more, work with people like doing like a writing like a writing getaway, like a bunch of you guys are just going to go
Yeah,
out and write and doing something like the
yeah,
castle thing where you can invite people and that could even like meetups and conventions, stuff like that is always I think those are so important because this is so community based that the more people just get entrenched in it and learn and like meet everyone and just learn even more, I think it just benefits the entire space.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm also very, very keen now to make friends in the community in real life. Like
Hmm.
very keen, especially with the way social media is going.
Hmm.
Like, and the amount of we won't go into that now. It could be the content for a whole other interview. But basically, I'm very, very, very keen, especially
Hmm.
next year, to like build from very close relationships. I've already started to build them through conventions in the UK. I want to get over to the US next year, so I'm trying to meet some people in real life,
Yeah,
some of the
that would be
people I'm
amazing.
already in contact with, and establish that and keep it going. And
Hmm.
then I want to really boost those people a lot. I really want to make sure that's not to create a clique or and anything like that, but just make sure that they're supported
Yeah.
with their endeavors.
I mean, it's just, you're building those relationships and naturally you want to see those people succeed. And
Yeah,
so I think it's
exactly.
so I think it's amazing and that's actually something I'm really excited about as well is to start making some of those connections in person.
Yeah.
Since this has been my first like year really within the TTRPG space and I've met so many amazing people so far through
Oh,
this
that's lovely.
podcast and I can't wait to be able to do something like Gen Con or those types of events and be able to see them in person and be like, hey, I know you.
Exactly. That's awesome.
I love that for you though, and I can't wait for the future.
Yeah, same. I'm really excited.
Amazing. So I think that we're going to close this up soon then, and I have
Hmm.
two questions. The
Yep.
first one being, obviously, you can answer this as much as you would like. I'm just curious if there would be an answer. Do you
Hmm.
have any future plans beyond Cryptid Creeks, like in the Kickstarter, like fulfilling that? Do you have any future plans on expanding it?
Cryptid Creeks specifically. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So
Uh,
I'll give you a spoiler. So basically, as part of the Kickstarter, as you probably see on the preview, there's our stretch goals is an anthology, which has got an incredible team on it. That's some of the who's who of basically family friendly RPGs.
Mhm.
So we've got 10 writers for that. Hopefully we'll unlock that.
Oh, that's so
But
exciting.
this is going to lead into Cryptid Cities, which is going to be
Ooh.
a kind of urban version of this game. It's going to be set around like an urbanized area, and it's going to
Mhm.
have like different types of watchers. They're going to be like giant rats or urban foxes and things, raccoons.
That's so
And
cool.
so it's going to come from that, and the curse is going to be very different because it's going to. I won't give spoilers away, but the curse is
Mhm.
it manifests in a very different way.
Oh, I'm obsessed.
Yeah, it's going to be more focused on. No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm, not gonna say,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
tempted, but I'm not going to.
you are
It's a
fun. I
world.
think
I'm not.
you've already said I think you've
I think I
already
am.
said plenty. That
Yeah.
sounds
So
insanely exciting.
so that's the plans for Creeks, and then
Mhm.
we've got so many games coming out next year. We've
Can't
got
wait.
Argo Zero, which is basically Lancer meets Hades, the video game.
Ooh.
So it's like
Oh,
it's based
I
on
love
kind of like 80s science fiction cartoons, like Ulysses
it.
31 and like Jason the Wheeled Warriors and things like that.
That sounds really cool.
That's going to be cool. I'm working with Kat, the law mistress, on that. She's co-designing, so she's an amazing designer and writer and mythologist. And we've got a ton of solo games coming out. So like one called Festival, which is about a community creating a carnival parade for a sort of
Mhm.
like a deity.
Ooh.
And that's the whole game. You just create this like dance and like offerings and kind of like
Mhm.
music. And the other
That's
one's called Bow, which is a journaling game again about a lone sailor circumnavigating an
Mhm.
ocean.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
finally, we've got Underworld, which is the third game in the sign language trilogy,
Ooh,
set
that's
on the
so.
underworld of the setting, basically. So it's like a dungeon crawl.
Oh, that's fun. Oh
Yeah,
God, that sounds so cool. I love
but you
how
don't
that
play
like.
Pendragons in it. You don't play
Oh,
Pendragons. You play the friends of the realm. So you play the
oh,
sort of like creatures.
that's adorable. I love it.
It's
I
gonna
love
be
that
fun.
like little
Really
series, and
fun.
I love that that's become like little universe and all of that. That's so
Yeah,
cute.
yeah,
Makes me
yeah.
so
It's nice.
happy.
So we've got a lot going on. It's gonna be some cool stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to see, and everyone who's listening, I hope that you can't wait to see either. Because where can people find you so that they can see all of this progress and see what is being worked on and what is coming out?
Yeah, so we're Hatchlings Games. Where you may find all our content basically on our website at www.hatchlingsgames.co.uk. I'm Hatchling DM on most social media.
Mhm.
I'm on prevalent on Twitter, and we've got a wonderful Discord. We've got a really great community over there. We've got 600 and something members,
Yeah, that's amazing.
and they're the main areas that you can find me. So if you go to the website, we've also got a side business called Tattered Bear, which provides basically support for family-friendly TTRPG creators, publishers,
Oh,
designers.
that's so
We
cool.
can cover anything from marketing to like project promotion, project creation.
Mhm.
Um, we do things like handshakes. We do like streams on our Twitch stream. So basically, all about helping people establish their family-friendly game.
That is so cool. I love that also focus that you guys have with those family-friendly games, kid-friendly, all of that. It's really, really awesome to see.
Thanks, I appreciate that. You started off with that sort of like idea, and we've never strayed from it. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's a perfect focus. It really is.
yeah,
It's absolutely amazing.
yeah. I
And
think it's
yeah.
part of the future. I think they will start to come more and more prevalent. I think
Mhm,
kids are getting more and more into role playing, and it's so beneficial for young people.
mhm.
Like it is without a doubt the most beneficial hobby in the world
It
if you break it
really is.
down.
I mean, just like the social skills and the socialization you learn and have alone is
Yeah.
like that's so important. Especially, I've been homeschooled pretty much all my life, and so
Hmm.
RPGs have actually been a huge thing with making friends and learning social skills and meeting people and all kinds of stuff like that. And so I think it is incredibly important. So I love that. Again, I love that focus because it does mean so much to
I'm
me.
super passionate about getting them to young people.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with your games. It's amazing.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think we are then at the last question here, which is kind of another one that I'm just curious of what the answer is, because I think there's so many things that it could be. But what are you the most excited about with Cryptid Creeks?
That's a good one. What am I most excited about? I think it's just 100% what people come up with as a group of players. I think I'm so curious to see how the fiction and the narrative of each curse will sort of play out. I think it's because it's so focused on kind of collaborative storytelling that I want to see if it has impact on a variety and kind of the different kind of stories that are told through it. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Nothing's it's like an overall feeling rather than kind of like something specific about it. Whereas Inspirals, I could say that Inspirals was more about how sign language is learned through the system. Obviously, that was what I was most excited about. And but this is more kind of like just a broad kind of feeling of what will be created through it.
Yeah, I think that is amazing though, because to be that excited about like basically the entirety of everything like involved in this game, I bet is like such a good feeling too. Like it is
actually
something to be proud
like
of.
the creativity behind it. I want to see what comes out creatively around it. Like just as I've learned creatively through the system that it's based upon, I want people to kind of expand the lore and the kind of like the fiction around the game. Also, the art is going to be absolutely kick-ass with this, like unbelievable. Lucille and Ashley and Fernando are just going to produce some of the most stunning, kind of like appealing art. Like it's almost like an animated series. It will look like by the end of it.
I can't wait. I mean, just the art on the preview like Kickstarter page, I've absolutely been enjoying looking through and seeing all like it's just such a pleasing style too. Like the colors are gorgeous and just like everything looks so cute.
It's like cozy, right? It's like spooky cozy. It's the only way I can describe it. But I think it really appeals to me. Spooky cozy, yeah.
My new favorite genre,
spoozy.
Spoozy. Spoozy.
You heard it here first.
I love spoozy games. Amazing. I mean, I think that is like a real genre though, because that gets combined so much. Spooky and cozy. Spoozy, yeah. Let's go.
Scooby-Doo, like the Goonies, all these things, like the Gravity Falls, all the things it's inspired by. They're very much that. Goosebumps is even spooky cozy, really.
Yeah, Goosebumps is. I haven't seen Goosebumps in so long. I haven't read Goosebumps in so long, but that just makes me want to now.
Yeah,
and that's actually.
I mean, you never know. We might get the license. We might get the license after we've launched this thing. Make a Goosebumps version.
That would be wildly cool. That would be amazing.
Yeah, if you could involve some of the curses from those books.
Yeah, I can even see the inspiration, even for like the navigators, like taking inspiration from stuff like the Goosebumps books.
Oh yeah,
like that would be a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
That would also be so awesome as well, because I've seen a lot of TTRPG publishing companies getting licenses to these to these pieces of media, such as like The Walking Dead. I know there's a podcast. What is it?
Yeah.
It's something Nightingale. I don't remember what the full name is. I know there's been the Alien RPG, that alone. So I think that's just amazing to see even that happen. So Goosebumps would be so cool.
Yeah, it would be very cool. But what I really want is Hilda, the license to Hilda. I'm obsessed with that series, and I think it would make such a good RPG. I forget if I somehow convince Luke Pearson to give us the license. I'm gonna keep going at it. But next year we might have the disposable income to actually approach him and Sony, who own the license. Maybe say, can we make an RPG? Come on.
Yeah,
The Sparrow Scouts would be awesome.
That would be so cool. Well, I hope that does happen, because that would be amazing to see. But yeah, like I said, I think that we are coming to the end, though. So thank you so much, Rich, for coming on and talking to me about Cryptid Creeks. You are always welcome if you'd like to come back on to talk about any of your other games. Just let me know, because I would be so down. But I am so very excited for Cryptid Creeks to come out. And can you please remind everyone again of when it's going to be coming out?
So September 5th, not long. Was it a month away or 3 weeks away even?
Oh my God, 3 weeks away.
Very soon. The pre-follower page has been live for a while. We got nearly 2,000 followers, so it's doing very, very well.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, this episode is definitely going to be coming out beforehand, so please, everyone, make sure to check it out.
I'll pop it on the Kickstarter page.
Perfect. I mean, I appreciate you putting it there, and I'm definitely going to make sure to share that around when it comes out as well, because again, it's such a cool game, and I want everyone to at least take a look at it and hopefully buy it too, because it looks absolutely amazing, and I hope to get it myself when it comes out, and maybe even the bundle that has all the games in it, because that would be amazing. But that would be just all around amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope that you had a fantastic time and that you learned all kinds of really cool things. And yeah, I think that we are at the end. So thank you, Rich. And
thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.